Thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, this series has been so much fun, and it occurred to me how brave our colleagues are, Adrian and Mary and Deb and Ray, coming up in front of, let's face it, a room full of school teachers. Is there anything that could make you quake in your boots more than standing up in front of a room full of school teachers? It's like speech one all over again times two. As a teacher here, I'm always cautious, certainly, about what I say in the classroom. But as a writer, I think I've always been very brave about what I say. I always have, as well, an avatar, the narrator of the story, who just isn't me. So I can say anything and go anywhere. And certainly that has brought me into this mysterious world of publishing in some pretty fun and interesting ways. I think, am I standing right in front of it? There we go. Is this book number 10 or 11? I think it's 10. There's the old editions. We're in the new adventure of the ebook. A lot of your old favorite books that disappeared even from the remainder shelves, the bargain book shelves, they're back available again as ebooks. And as a writer, I'm delighted, because when you buy them used and you buy them remaindered, I get zip. So go buy my books in the electronic formats. They're a whole lot cheaper, but this is the gang. And I also write short stories that have been my first love, and I don't know how many there are. There's a collection of them back there, always my first love. And it's a very glamorous, glamorous profession, I must tell you. There's a picture down here that's my favorite. This was in the fall after I quit coloring my hair and decided to become the gray fox. I had the flu and had to speak and had to try to pretend to be charming, and what we really wanted to do was just go home and go to bed. I thought that really symbolized the whole thing. I'd really rather go home and be in front of my computer. I'm a historian, and so research is my greatest joy. And as a writer, research is fun as well, because this is always the excuse to go strange and interesting places. The Paramour's Daughter, I finally got my character Maggie McGowan out of the United States and off the continent. We took her to Normandy. Had a ball. We ate and drank our way across France, and that is one grand book. And there are so many feasting scenes in that book, I don't even remember the count, but I think I took out 5. Great stuff going on. Most of that research, however, has taken me into the inner parts of our own community, downtown Los Angeles, and this is the Chinatown Gate with City Hall. My very first book was set, actually, the first Maggie McGowan book takes place in Chinatown, but it's the exploration of the community that often informs the story. I find the characters, the language that they use, what they eat, what they do, what interests them, what frightens them, by going about and looking them up. And this has meant going to Skid Row at midnight the day that the checks came out. That was fun. It was also raining. That made it even better. You can find that in a couple of books, Midnight Baby especially. I went to the morgue and watched an autopsy. I didn't volunteer for the autopsy, but they said, oh, good, you're here. Here we go. I won't do that again. I did that for you. You don't have to. Not pleasant unless you're one of those D-building people that finds that fairly interesting. John, I'll tell you all about it. But the variety and mysteries of the folks who just inhabit our own community always have been a fascination. And so the books are essentially an exploration of who we are, who they are. And we find so many poignant scenes. Can you think of anything more poignant than that closet with the pink coat hanger on the fence under the 2nd Street Railroad Bridge, downtown LA? There's a great view of the skyline just about from there. There isn't an arch or an available spot on any of those downtown bridges that isn't somebody's home. And I found it absolutely fascinating how domesticated all of those little niches and benches and so on actually were. And of course, here's Evergreen Cemetery. Evergreen is the oldest cemetery in the downtown area. It's the first Anglo cemetery, the first Protestant cemetery in Los Angeles. And from there, you can see in the distance, of course, the skyline of LA. And you travel through the cemetery, and you see the layers of the history of Los Angeles. There is the pre-World War II segregated black section. There's the Spanish flu section from 1918, 1919. There's the baby section, the little angel. But what we found most poignant are the most recent graves in the cemetery now are gangbangers. They're young men. Some of their families, you can see, don't have even the money to buy headstones for their kids. That they're dairy boxes, old milk boxes, and plastic flowers, and plastic fence. You see the grief here, of course, in their displays, and I think the desperation. But some of the more interesting are the kids who have etched on their stones with these laser cutters their favorite car, their gang name, pictures with their tattoos, all of the things that made them happy in life. So here's the kid in his attire over to the right, his car, the baby, the symbols, the whole shrine. This is the most active part of the cemetery. The other part that's active is the Potter's Field. And of course, that's a very big part of the book In the Guise of Mercy, where the people nobody ever claimed, nobody's ever identified, cremated, and every 3 or 6 months, they'll pile another 1,500 people into this mass unmarked grave. And always there's a funeral. And I found that so tremendously poignant. Chinatown, I left a body in this alley in Telling Lies. So here it is, Hop Sing's Alley, just Chinatown. Isn't that pretty? And of course, the canyons. My new book, I think, is the bravest that I've written. Scarier than going to the morgue, scarier than going into the projects, or Skid Row at midnight. Because this is the first book that I set on a college campus. It's not our college campus. None of the people in this book have anything to do with anybody living, dead, or otherwise on this campus ever was. There's no beach in the name of that campus. It's in a town that doesn't exist. And the problems that our heroine, the stalwart Maggie McGowan, faces are this terrible, terrible economic period, the reorganization of campuses, the struggle between the brave and noble faculty and a completely benighted, an administration that's just not sensitive perhaps to the interests of that faculty. There is massive building project, this thing that our students question so frequently, how can we have $6,000 palm trees when we can't get a class? So this is occurring all across the state of California, the bond money being spent one way and educational money not. So these are not our problems. They're universal to the state. And I thought, my God, if there ever was a place ripe for mayhem, it's a public college campus. And it is, I am looking at universal problems, so please don't be offended if you think it's you. It really isn't. I might have, used the way you walk or some of the words you've used, but it isn't you. It's not. I promise you it's not. And I got the idea for the book, I think, one very stormy day. It started with a funeral scene. And by the time I get around to the funeral, the original opening was the funeral, and here we can see it. It's 3/4 of the way back in the book because the book got written in front of it as we went. But I'll read you my funeral scene, and again, nobody here is here. I won't tell you who the victim is. You'll have to find it in the unfolding of the scene, okay? This is from the hanging. They're here to arrest me, aren't they? They won't do anything until after the funeral, I said, stealing a glance toward the college gym's exit doors, where Detectives Thornberry and Weber stood, feet shoulder-width apart like soldiers at parade rest, unmoving, yet seeing everything and everyone in the room. Uncle Max reached forward from his seat behind us and clamped a hand on Sly's shoulder as a reminder to keep his mouth shut. And I should have told you a little bit about who they are. Sly is a street kid that Maggie dragged in off the street when his little partner was found in Midnight Baby. Maggie is an investigative filmmaker, and Uncle Max is her lawyer, her agent, and the person she always calls, right? He should be Superman, because she really calls him a lot. Okay, Sly dropped his head and wiped his hands on his pants legs before he clenched them together. He was as thin as a splinter, but compared to the scrawny urchin I'd pulled in off the streets a decade earlier, he was downright robust. I thought he looked handsome in his new blue suit. A lot of people in that room were keeping an eye on Sly. The course of life is rarely a straightaway. His certainly had not been. But it seemed to me that he was handling the curves thrown at him recently with grace. I looked around, checking on Guido's film crew. Camera placements and lights caught his eye and got a nod that meant all was well. The cameras were fairly unobtrusive, but they were a presence just the same. As I turned back around, I saw that Thornberry was staring at me. I leaned in close to Sly and whispered, "Don't worry, kid. If they put you in the slam, I'll bake you a cake." He slid his eyes toward me and managed to smile. "Promise, Maggie?" "Promise," I said. "What kind?" he asked. "Devil's food, of course." Uncle Max cleared his throat, a signal for me to shut up as well. Sly mouthed, "You okay?" I nodded, gave his arm a squeeze, and mouthed, "You?" He smiled gamely. The big gymnasium doors swung open, and 6 men, all of them wearing dark suits, all members of the college administration except for handsome Trey Holloway, the dead man's son, wheeled the mahogany coffin in out of the rain. I saw the basketball coach scowl. I don't know how Coach felt about Park Holloway, but it was basketball season, and Coach had protested mightily against holding the memorial service for Holloway in his gym. But it was still raining heavily, predicted to continue in the afternoon, and with the auditorium closed for earthquake retrofitting, there was no other indoor space on campus large enough to contain the 500 or 600 members of the campus community who had come to pay their last respects to the murdered man. To appease Coach, the highest paid and to some the most valuable member of the faculty, the gym floor was covered with heavy canvas drop cloths borrowed from some ongoing construction project on campus, and we all traded our shoes for athletic socks. I didn't mind. The socks were warmer than the wet pumps I had placed on the tarp beneath my chair. As a coffin came down the center aisle, the crowd stood as they would for a bride and watched the mortuary trolley progress toward the out-of-bounds line where a priest, a rabbi, a Buddhist monk, a Methodist preacher, and a Chumash Indian shaman waited in front of a bank of potted palms and Easter lilies. That lineup of men dressed in their various forms of clerical garb would certainly be fodder for corny jokes once this collegiate congregation was sprung. A priest, a rabbi, and a shaman all walked into a bar. I should leave you there. I won't tell you who's in that coffin. And there you are. So, any questions? I know some of you are writers. Mike?
When you start writing a book like this, do you come up with the story first, or you do your characters first, and then invent stuff for them to do?
I know my standard characters. I know Maggie McGowan, the filmmaker. In this book, by the way, she's teaching for 1 semester, just on a 1-semester contract. That's why she's there. So I know her buddies, but I don't know the people who populate the book. And we travel around. This is my husband, Paul, and we go around and we see things that are interesting. We hear things, and I think, there's a book. Sometimes something just pops out at you, and there's a story. If it's a big story, it's a book. If it's a little story, it's a short story. And then we go to that place and we find out what would that crime be? What would belong in this place? And to meet the people, and the story just evolves organically. Some people outline and plan, and I find that I really like the characters to grow and to develop and basically to do their own thing. And so it just happens organically. So the story always comes first. I always know what the crime is because that's what's important. And I always think I know who done it, though I often change my mind. But the importance to me is not catching the perpetrator. Mike, is in law enforcement, so that's maybe not what he's doing. But my interest is in the effect of that situation on the whole community. It's not who done it, but why done it. So, you know, the population just evolves, I think, out of what that story began as. Mary?
Have you ever written a story that was actually based on a historical, an actual crime that happened?
Yep. Couple, actually. A book, 77th Street Requiem, is based on the still unsolved murder of Los Angeles police officer Michael Edwards. He was a Long Beach boy, went to Poly High School. He was murdered in the neighborhood of the 77th Street Division in LA 2 nights after the Symbionese Liberation Army moved in a few blocks over. I don't know, some of you children don't remember the Symbionese Liberation Army, but that shootout, those of us who do, that shootout was a major event. I was always fascinated by the Patty Hearst thing. You know, it really was. And the Mike Edwards, I like to ask people who are involved in the justice system in any capacity if there was ever a case that is unsolved that has especially resonated with them, or a case that was solved that especially resonated with them. And time after time after time, police officers said Michael Edwards, Michael Lee Edwards, because it was one of theirs. The circumstances were so ugly, and it's not been solved. So I started calling the original old detectives, and this case was 25 years old by the time I got around to it. Talked to the old detectives, and every one of them laid out for me exactly what happened. He knew it, and he could prove it, and every one of them told me exactly something differently. And I just found it fascinating because that's the way it is, right? It's so hard to know. I think I know who done it. I have my pet. But that's not the person I put in the book. Because I think that person did it, and that person's still alive and around, and thanks very much. But no thanks. Not a very nice person. And certainly 9 Sons is based on something that actually happened in my mother's hometown when she was a little girl, and her father is the man in the story who does the funeral, and she and her sisters made the shroud for the baby in the story. Every one of the stories does have some thing that occurred in history or is occurring around us now. So I can't get away from the past. Every story has a long past, and I always look at what happens now as an historian now. How did we get here? Can't help it. Yeah. Hi, Christiane.
What do you read for inspiration? What led you to writing?
I don't know. I just love to read. I just love to read. I like mysteries because I like the puzzle. But I'll read anything. You know, any good story is a mystery because any good story has a conflict that needs resolution. So in that way, you know, isn't all of life a grand mystery? But I'll read anything, including cereal boxes, but whatever comes, you know, there's such vast variety. I do like certain folk, however. No single person. Mike?
Have you ever set a book like in Long Beach or in a, like T. Jefferson Parker writes all his in Orange County? You know, have you ever done stuff like that?
Yeah, most of mine are in LA, not by my design, but because the editor, the first book, Maggie's from San Francisco. She came down to LA because her sister had been shot, so she gets all involved in that, and her sister was shot in that alley in Chinatown. So that's how Maggie gets to LA. And the next book, I thought, my first 2 books were a history teacher, though they weren't set on the college campuses. And when I wrote the first one, I didn't think about series. And then the publisher asked if I would write the sequel. They were thinking series. Well, history teachers just aren't really natural crime solvers, folks, let me tell you. I've been here a long time. Nobody's on that quad yet. So one crime relating to family, that was plausible. But more than, right? So I wrote a second one, and then they wanted 2 more. And so it was like, Cabot Cove would look like this campus, right? Or this campus would look like Cabot Cove with a body every week after 56 minutes, right? So I forget where that was going. But then I had to think about the series character. And I wanted somebody who could move around. And I thought a filmmaker, not, you know, a policeman has to follow the rules, I hope. a journalist, you've got a physical place you need to be. There are lots of those out there. I didn't want a PI because, boy, there are a lot of those. So I thought a filmmaker, an investigative filmmaker, could go anywhere. So I wrote a book. I bring Maggie to LA. The next book, I sent my proposal. Maggie goes to London. Title of the book, Mind the Gap. Right? My editor says, what the hell is she doing in London? Maggie belongs in LA. I became their fall LA woman writer. And so I was here. That was it. That was it. I have a new publisher, a new editor. I said, you know, I really want to take Maggie out of the country. She said, go. So we went to France. And then I came back to somewhere in the Conejo Valley. But Midnight Baby is set in a large part in Long Beach. I leave a body in the Naples Canal. That was interesting.
Could you talk about the economic benefit or not of writing these novels?
Let's remember that writing is an art, and that starving artist naturally goes together. I think that if I could, there are very few writers who can support themselves consistently. I was doing okay, but the book doesn't come with a health plan, a retirement plan, or any security for the children I had to finish raising by myself. So I shifted from teaching part-time and writing full-time to writing part-time and teaching full-time. Thank you, Long Beach City College. And everything's great, but I think the average writer earns under $8,000 a year. That's not a, and you'll hear people saying, oh, I've got an ebook out and I'm earning billions of dollars on ebooks, you know, $1 at a time, their money's just flowing in, and don't believe them for a minute. I'm real happy with the checks that are coming as older books are now out there again. The people who are earning a great deal of money from books that originally are ebooks are people who are marketing that book full-time and spending a lot of money to market that book full-time. I could comment on what my opinion of the ebook is. You know, books aren't written by a single person. I write it. It goes to my first reader here. We've centered him in the room because he's my editor, first editor. Then they go to the publisher. They get edited. They get content edited. They get line edited. They get fact-checked. They get polished up. And then they go through the process of production, of becoming a book. There are a lot of eyes that see it and help shape it. And well, the author, those are my words. I have a lot of comment along the way. And those editors, they're smart. They really are. I hear some writers who get very angry with their editors because they think they're trying to take control, but actually what the editor is saying, you need to fix something. And you need to fix something because the editor is just another reader. So that process gives some polish to the book, right? That 99.99% of the books that are floated on self-published platforms, thank you, Annie, they're just not ready yet. They're just not ready yet. It doesn't mean it's not good writing or not good story or couldn't be. They're just not there yet, right? They're just not there yet. And so there's a lot of junk out there. Just a lot of junk. But you can pay to get awards and things for yourself. You can buy these stickers. You publish with me and we'll send you these stickers. You have just won the, you put on the covers of all your books. So it's entrepreneurial, and you know, I'm glad. And there are some fabulous things. And there are very few people who publish a book on the net that does very well, and then a mainstream publisher picks them up. And then they get reviewed and so on. But you see these on Amazon, you know, the bargain of the week, and they're 99-cent books, and you're not going to find a whole lot that's great. But if you do, let us know. Huh? Yes?
I was just curious, in terms of, you said you switched publishers recently. How many publishers have you had, why, and what are the circumstances? But I feel like that part to me is a mystery. Usually when I publish something, it's scary because a friend will contact me and say, hey, there's this edited book, we want something you've done, or somebody else will say, hey, I saw you do a paper, can you write an article? And so somebody has contacted me, but I feel really naive when it comes to actually figuring out, you know, what.
You know, it's not all that different after you get your first book published. My first book I wrote in a writing workshop at a community college locally. Wonderful, wonderful teacher. And I sent it to his agent. And she sent it out, and it sold right away. And then that publisher didn't do paperback editions, so they sent it out to a paperback auction, on a paperback auction. And it was picked up by Worldwide, Gold Eagle, something like that. Dutton declined to buy that paperback, but contacted my agent and asked if I would then write for them, write the next in that series. You know, what series? For them. And then I stayed with them for 6 more books. And they would do, every year we'd do a hardcover, and then the next year they would come out with a paperback at the same time the new hardcover came out. A book a year is a lot. I don't know very many people who can teach full-time and write a book a year, frankly, but it wasn't me. So that just happened, and because I was published, then I was invited to contribute to a short story anthology, and then I got a big award for the first one, and then I got invited again and again and again. And so all my short stories have been by invitation. I've never written one on spec. They always come exactly as you described it. Somebody asks. They'll have a theme, and then you do it. You know, and that's, you ask, where do the stories come from? They have these themes, and so Tony Hillerman was editing an anthology, and he says he needs a mystery set in the West, but don't use cowboys, for goodness sake. So I thought, West, oh, Palm Springs, there you go. Who goes to Palm Springs? And I headed out to Palm Springs, saw a truck stop prostitute, and I thought, boy, there's an anonymous person. There's my character, there's my story, and there goes Palm Springs. So that's kind of how that occurs. But it's usually by invitation. And then I had a gap. I got kids through high school, college, and then Paul retired, took over what we call phone and door, all those things you have to do. I have, by the way, an office Paul and a home Paul, so it gets confusing, but I'd come home from school, he'd go to the gym, I'd start writing. He'd come home, he'd start dinner, I'd keep writing. That first book in the next batch had so many dinner scenes, you cannot imagine. Come home from school hungry, and he's in there with his wonderful cook. Lots of garlic going on in the kitchen. That was one big feasting book. We got a lot of feasts from that book, too. So, there you go. It's just, I don't know where that was going. So it's just kind of organic. It's just once you get your toe in the door, I think as you find with academic publishing, once you get your toe in the door, then you're invited. And I went with a small publisher this time, and I'm delighted. There's no pressure for the book a year, and they're in Palo Alto. They're quite shishy, and I like them. And
So everyone, we just want to thank Wendy for coming, and there's some books in the back.
There's some books in the back. Thank you for coming. It was fun.